welcome to everybody who's joined us this evening. We are recording it live on Finding Voices Radio this Sunday, the 22nd of July, 2012. It is 7 p.m. local time here in the Netherlands, which has finally seen some sunshine this weekend, and thank Gaia for that. Welcome, of course, to those of you who may be new to the show. My name is Mel V, and I'll be your host for the next 2 hours. Dealing with all the technical issues and, of course, fielding the chat forum is my husband, Richard. So if you would like to please get involved, there is a new and improved function on the chat forum available on findingvoicesradio.com. And, of course, do feel free to send in any questions or interact with other people on the forum. And, of course, we will try to get to the questions, but we do have a lot this evening. So no promises, but tonight is going to be a busy show. So I'm just going to dive straight in. Okay. All right. As many of you know, Freedom Central have been ardent supporters of Robert Greene and his pursuit in justice for Hollie Greig, who apparently there are some allegations that Hollie Greig has been abused as a child, which are made by her mother and has turned into an internationally recognized campaign around the world. But the accused have hit back, saying that the evidence is flawed and unsubstantiated, and that they have never really been given a fair platform to say anything about this. The Hollie Greig Hoax Group has grown in momentum and support, and have been successful at convincing many in the truth movement and the justice-seeking community that Hollie Greig and the Hollie Greig case is in fact a hoax. And in fact that she was never abused, and the whole thing is either just a massively co-opted distraction, which looks like there could be evidence for that, considering some of the people who were involved in spearheading the publicity and spreading all the campaigns all over the world. And I myself have, through my own independent research, found out things about these people through my own experience, and I can verify some of this information for myself. But the other option is, of course, that this is all the machinations of one potentially very sick woman, Anne Greig. Now, we don't know what the story is, and of course, we at Freedom Central have spent a great deal of time campaigning for Hollie Greig. We even went all the way up to Edinburgh, and this is the famous Edinburgh trip where we weren't allowed into a conference after funding our trip ourselves to get there. We were turned away at the entrance, but Robert Greene did meet us the next day for an interview. One of the people that I had made arrangements to meet when I went up there was Robert Greene, so I had gone all the way to Edinburgh with a lot of difficulty and a lot of heartache. Got the interview from him. So of course it's of great distress to us to now, sometime back 2 years later, turn around and look at all of this and go, hang on, what's going on here? There looks like there could be issues with this case, and have we done the right thing in putting ourselves out and going out on a limb to try and get this guy some exposure for the case that he's fronting? I would just like to say, you know, when the Hollie Greig Hoax Group approached me, we literally, it forced me to look at some of the evidence that they had compiled. I felt that there were some things that needed clarification from both sides. So I'm not going to say too much more because I can't really do it much more justice. So with no further ado, I'm going to give them a chance to make themselves heard. I would, just before I do that, like to say for the record that this is not a trial, and Freedom Central is only the impartial facilitator of a two-way question-answer session. No judgment shall be drawn by us either way. Rather, we leave it up to you, the intelligent, discerning listener, to make up your own mind about these matters and decide how you want to approach this matter and with your attitudes. It's really of no concern to us what you do with this information. We're only making it available, and as I said, it's not about judging anybody. So let me go over to the group who I know are waiting anxiously on the other side. I had them on earlier, and I'll give them a quick Skype call. Just to say, tonight we are joined by 5 members of the Hollie Greig Hoax Group, including 2 of the accused, but I'll let them introduce themselves, as I believe they also have some statements to make. So I'm just going to give them a quick ring. Hello? 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 Hello, hello. Hello. It's a symphony of hello. Hello, ladies. It's lovely to have you all on. So let me start with Sarah. Sarah, do you want to get started first?
Yes. Hello, Mel.
Hello.
Thanks for having us all on. And yeah, I'm just going to read out a little short statement that's from all of us, just sort of to put where we're coming from across first.
Okay.
Now, this, you know, some of this info might be difficult for people to take in, but we've been working on this for a long time. So I'll just start, and I'll take it slowly so we can go.
Yes.
Okay, so we're a collective, and we all believe that the stories of Hollie Greig's abuse were made up to begin with, and embellished over time by Anne Greig, Robert Greene and others. And we were all once supporters of the campaign, but through experience with the Hollie Greig campaign members, spending time with the falsely accused, and extensive and diligent research, we've all reached the same conclusions, maybe at different times though. And we believe that Hollie has never been sexually abused. And we believe Anne is mentally unstable. And what started as revenge on her husband spiralled into accusations of 22 people being listed as paedophiles, accusations of police and doctors, teachers and the judiciary colluding to cover it up, and culminating in the entire Scottish government allegedly being complicit in the cover-up of a satanic, Masonic ring of paedophiles that run Scotland. Anne should really be... feel sorry for Anne in lots of ways. She has been aided in her delusions via certain key members of the UK truth community, and those are primarily Robert Greene, who is a self-styled investigative journalist and a legal lay advisor to Anne, and who in fact did no investigation and has no legal experience. Belinda Mackenzie is another one, who is quite a well-known truth movement campaigner. She spun the Hollie Greig tale to get a maximum emotional and now a financial response from supporters. Brian Gerrish, he's used the Hollie Greig story to promote his own UK column agenda, child stealing by the state, and without doing any of his own research into the stories. David Icke, and he's perhaps has the biggest audience share, so he's done the most to promote it. This idea that Scotland is run by a satanic Masonic cult. So that's what he's been telling the world on his talk tours. I heard him say it in Maui. So we are really delighted to be invited onto your show, Mel, and to be given a platform, and we are here to answer questions and to discuss our own experiences of it. We also have some questions of our own. We've been answering questions for a long time on Facebook. We're quite well versed. And we're very pleased to be able to bring the other side and the full story. And that's the story that really is a falsely accused story to a wider audience. So thank you. And my name's Sarah McLeod. And there's another 4 of us online tonight. So we have Wyn Dragon-Smith and Sylvia Major. So could you say hi, Wyn?
Hi.
How are you tonight? How are you?
Thanks. Excellent.
Good. Would you want to just say a wee bit about yourself, please, Wyn?
Okay, yep. I am one of the 22 falsely accused by Anne. Obviously, I live in Aberdeen. 3 years ago, I was absolutely devastated when I discovered all the rubbish on the internet, and I've followed it religiously since. But since meeting these lovely people and working with them, I know it doesn't bother me in the slightest.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Wyn.
That's where I stand.
Good. Sylvia, are you there? Hi, Sylvia.
Hi.
Yes. You say a wee bit about yourself.
Well, I'm just the same as Wyn. I was falsely accused as well. But I didn't follow it like Wyn did. I've only become interested in it since Robert Greene's trial. So that's the state that I am in, just followed it the last few months.
Okay. There's another 2 ladies on the line, and that is Rachel Keeley. Rachel, hi.
Hello, Sarah.
Hi. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Great. Can I just stop you there for a second, Rachel? We need you to speak up a little bit so that we can hear you clearly. How's that?
Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, carry on.
Hi, yes, sorry. My name's Rachel, and as Sarah said, I think we all started about 2.5 years ago with the campaign. We were all supporters, and I, for one, was taken in and believed without question, and that carried on for a few weeks, and then it was after a very short period of time that I started to realise that things didn't really add up. Information came my way, and I decided that I would look into it, and that's what I've been doing for the past 2.5 years. And you know, I've seen people abused, I've seen people being called names, very emotional, very aggressive, and very worrying. And so I just thought that, you know, I would spend time making sure that what I found out was true, and it has been. And then connecting up with Wyn and Sylvia and the team, and all of us together, you know, we found out a lot, and you know, we just feel that it would be great if other people would also look into things that we're going to tell them tonight. And thank you, Mel, for giving us the platform. That's fantastic. Very kind of you.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. As well. And there's one last but not least member, Lateks Lil. And I'd just like to say that Rachel and Lateks together have got an extensive grasp and knowledge and that they're bringing to us this evening, and it's really great to have them. So, Lateks, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, and hello to everyone, and thanks again for having us, Melanie. I've been investigating and analysing the allegations being made by Anne and Robert, and believe that the real truth behind their claims is now starting to emerge as being totally fabricated, twisted to for certain people's needs, and that they have damaged many innocent people along the way, duped believers of their stories and the entire truth movement as a whole. And it's time that these lies were ended for everybody's sake. And Rachel actually made an interesting point in that she said at the beginning that she believed it without question, and I think this is what applies to everyone that was involved from the start. They believed this story without question. A lot of them assumed that Robert Greene had done the research, had found all this information out and verified it to be true, and it's turned out not to be the case. He did nothing, and the people that have started to question it, looked at the story without the emotion involved, analysed what was said, when it was said, how it was said, and how many different variations there were. And this is another interesting point, because the truth does not change. But when you start telling different stories, you know there's a problem there, and the more you look into it, the more it becomes obvious that this story has more holes than Swiss cheese. So, you know, thanks again, Melanie. We hope to bring you some really interesting information tonight, so we're looking forward to this.
That's excellent, Lily. I totally agree with you, what you said. There's one other member who cannot be with us tonight, and that's a shame, Pyrite. And but he has sent in a message to me that I was going to read out later, and I'll just tell you it's about Brian Gerrish and Roger Hayes and certain correspondence that he had with those two gentlemen. So I'll maybe read that out later on if we have a chance. But I don't know. But how about we go straight into some questions, okay. Melanie? Do you have anything to ask about what we've been saying there?
Yes. Well, first off, thanks, ladies. That was lovely for everyone to hear you and to introduce yourselves. You can hear they're all very competent for everyone who's listening. So if you have any questions, do log on to the chat forum, send them in, and we will try to get through everything. But I can assure you we have a lot to get through tonight. If necessary, we will have these folks back. But let's try to work through this. First off, I think the second half I'm going to start doing climbing into the questions from the public. Up front, I think there's probably some stuff that you guys want to get out. I take it there's some of you you've said that you've got some information that you feel wants airing. Who wants to go first with their statements?
Right. Could we actually just get the questions out of the way with first?
Yeah, sure.
Then we can spend more time, because we'll obviously get more questions regarding the new information, which a lot of people, I'm pretty sure, have never heard this new information before. So if we can just get out what people are already accustomed to knowing, because we know what questions are pretty much going to be asked. So if you don't mind.
Sure, all right. So, first off, many people have never openly heard the two ladies openly confirm or deny abusing Hollie Greig. So we're going to ask them outright here tonight to answer this question. Have either of you at any time either acted in any way that could be construed or misinterpreted as abusing Hollie Greig?
Absolutely not.
Not in the slightest, no.
So, Wyn?
Absolutely not. No way.
Sylvia?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Never.
No.
No less than 5 independent professionals support Hollie Greig's claims of abuse. All of these professionals have provided documents to support the fact that Hollie was a victim of sexual assault and rape. Therefore, we have to question the two accused ladies whether they could comment on these documented facts or non-facts that have already been accepted by the CICA, convincing them to award Hollie of the $13,500 in compensation. Is it a matter of established fact that the following professionals all testified and proved documentary evidence stating Hollie Greig was a victim of sexual assault, and it is important to keep clearly in mind that the words like assault and rape were used by these professionals to support Hollie Greig's claims. And of course these professionals are Dr. Eva Harding, Dr. Jack Boyle and Dr. Paul Carter. And Ruth Beckham, who is of course from the Down Syndrome Association, and Grampian Police's own forensic medical officer, Dr. Francis Kelly. That's a question. Who wants to take that one?
How many questions are in there? I mean, we could take each individually and talk about it for...
Well, let's start with the basics, guys. Let's start from there. Who wants to start?
Okay, have you actually read any of those reports?
Yes, I of course have, but we have now got an audience who is sending in questions and they want to hear it from you.
Yeah, but you have to understand, you have to read that report. You also have to be able to question the people, and you also have to question the information that they were given. Now, this information was given to them by Anne. Now, let's take Eva Harding. Eva Harding is dead, so you can't question her. And Paul Carter, I think, was the doctor that also stated that he found no evidence of sexual abuse in Hollie.
Yeah, Jack Boyle, we don't know.
Jack Boyle we can't talk about because we've never seen Jack Boyle's reports. Also, the PCC...
Sorry.
But I think Rachel will be able to tell you better about the Police Complaints Commission.
Okay.
And the payout.
Yes, the payout is important. That is something people are asking about, because that is something that, we tracked the evidence of that ourselves personally 2 years ago when we got involved with this. But there is obviously some discrepancy from your side. Could someone take that one?
Well, I think the main thing with the whole situation is if you have a mother that takes her daughter to be medically examined, the daughter is then pronounced not a virgin, and there is no other explanation offered by the mother as to the reason why she isn't a virgin, but the mother offers the scenario of rape, then there is no other conclusion that anyone can come to.
But she never told them that Hollie had a boyfriend.
Mm.
And also, there is not one report that you will read that states that there was medical evidence that Hollie had been raped from the age of 6 by 22 people repeatedly for how many years? Because believe me, medically that would show. All the medical reports, when you analyse them, all they say is Hollie was not a virgin. Now, the police officer involved with the payment also concluded he did not say Hollie had been raped. They narrowed it down to possibly the father and the brother, but he also said if it was true. Now, the policeman in question is dead, so again, you can't question these people. The same with Eva Harding. And now, Eva Harding also has another interesting connection, which we can get to later, to do with the Tavistock Institute.
Interesting. All right. No. First, let's stick with this. What is interesting is you've mentioned something about the fact that there was no signs on Hollie's body that she was being raped, because this wasn't reported by Anne for how many years?
14, isn't it?
Now,
a woman never noticed it.
A girl with Down syndrome would need to be be helped to dress and bathe at times, and surely that would have been noticed during that time.
Well, we would have thought so, Melanie. Yes.
Now, there would have been some physical signs. Do you reckon in that 14 years while she was bathing and dressing her daughter on the body of if she was repeatedly abused?
I would have thought so.
Yes, you would think so.
I would have thought so. Well, definitely when in examination, I'm sure that if you had been, raped by 22 people for all those years, from the age of 6, then there would be signs, physical signs, bad physical signs.
Terrible signs.
Yes. So, I think it was just pronounced that she wasn't a virgin, and that was that, really. That there had been signs of sexual penetration.
Yeah, I mean, the problem also comes down to the fact that a doctor will not discuss a patient's medical history. So it's, unless it ever goes to court, which it never will.
No. That's right.
Well, so how does that follow on to the payment then? Because lots of
the payment, and you can check this with them yourself.
We can leave a number for people to ring if they wish. We can put a number up there. I'll find one eventually.
Yes, please do. I will attach it to the clip, which I will put up. But please send us the number.
And they can phone these people. They're very amiable. They're very nice, and they will probably explain it a lot better than we could, and probably be better for the people to hear straight from the horse's mouth how the payments are made.
Okay.
So I'll find that number for you later so that you can put that up.
All right.
But basically, you don't need to be. What is it? It doesn't need to be somebody found guilty if you get
and it's also not an admission that somebody was guilty.
It's probability.
So she was awarded compensation for probability of sexual abuse.
Well, probability, and that is the key word, because they will not say that the father or the son or the 22 people named were guilty. Given the information that they had, which again was biased, one-sided, and was never ever questioned, given the information they were provided with, they could only make a conclusion that Hollie may have been sexually abused, not anyone was guilty, not blaming that person or that person, because there was absolute proof there wasn't. All they knew is Hollie was not a virgin. Anne offered no other alternate explanation as to why Hollie was not a virgin, therefore they paid out. And you can search on the internet and see that it's quite often people are paid out for the wrong reasons, or because they made a story up. It's not an admission of anything.
Okay. All right.
Does that get clear?
Clarified. All right.
And again, this is not us saying this, because we have checked how these payments are made, and basically the information that you give them would not even be of a quality that would stand up in court.
Okay. It's
a much lower standard that they will pay out on.
All right, ladies, next question I want to ask you guys. It was established in open court during Robert Green's trial that the police did not investigate the computers or bank details of the father and brother of Hollie Greig when they had a chance in 2000 and 2002. Did either of the ladies know why the police didn't carry out a full investigation?
We didn't know what was going on at that time. We knew nothing about it.
Well, I did, because I was accused then as well, but I didn't know what the police were doing. I didn't, but I was accused 10 years ago as well, as Dennis was.
Well, okay. Well, let's talk about the relationships with that you ladies had with Anne Greig. What was you were friends? When I spoke to you the first time, you talked about the effect this has had on the brother, and he's devastated about this. Let's talk about that. Your relationships with them. Why Anne left Scotland? How that whole scenario evolved. What really happened, as far as you're concerned?
Right. Well, I was a really close friend, probably the closest friend Anne had.
Sorry, could I just clarify who's speaking there?
Sorry, it's Wyn here.
Wyn, okay, Wyn. Sorry, I know you and Sylvia are sharing a mic. All right, Wyn. Yes.
Yeah. And my husband and I, you know, we visited with them regularly. We went on holiday with them. We went runs with them. We were very close. And I would say there's absolutely no way that Hollie was ever abused, ever. No way. She was a very happy little girl, and she was loved by everybody.
Yes, and her mother and father was very good to her. They were super parents to her.
Absolutely. And her brother was brilliant with her as well. And she was just happy little girl.
You can actually see this in the pictures. If you look at early pictures of Hollie, you see she was happy. Look at her now.
Yeah.
Yes, she was she was always well cared for.
Now she just looks bewildered and confused, and just she was taken away from every person who loved her and who she loved. Everybody. And I think it was terrible to remove her from every relative, every friend that she considered an auntie or an uncle, her aunties, everybody she was taken away from. And I think it's awful.
Yes, that was when the marriage broke up. That's when she left. Yeah.
That was when the first signs of her being really unstable and paranoid and acting really strangely for weeks before, running out in the house at night with her nightie on and bare feet, biting her son when he tried to bring her back into the house, just totally out of character, absolutely.
And just to explain a wee bit more, that Anne's husband was trying to cope with her having this sort of a bit of a breakdown. He tried really hard, along with Wyn and other people, various ways of helping her.
Dennis and I actually took her to the GP because we were so concerned. And I don't know what the GP had said because she went in by herself. But when she came out, she said to the two of us, look, see, he's one of the ones that's against us as well, against me as well. She was paranoid about everything and everybody. And it was sad. I mean, every friend, when she ran out that night, personally, I spent about 2 hours driving all around the town looking for her with another friend who went out in her car. Dennis had to stay with Hollie. I mean, we were frantic, we were worried, sick about her. So, there was no abuse, I can assure you.
When would there have been time anyway? I mean, he worked on offshore, and when he was home, I mean, Anne spent every minute she could with Hollie.
Absolutely, they were always together.
And every minute with Dennis, the three of them were always together.
Yes, they were always together when he was at home.
And when Dave and I went out with them, there was always Dennis, Anne, Hollie, Dave and myself. And she was spoiled by every one of us, you know. Yes. In the nicest way. I don't mean spoiled in a bad way, but she was just made a fuss of.
Yes, just
happy little thing.
She was.
Right, now, Sylvia, let's talk about the courtroom. There's obviously a lot of, there's a very nasty video on YouTube about you obviously coming in and sitting behind Hollie Greig. Tell us your side of this.
Right. I was down there 2 hours before the court started, because the court was supposed to start at 10 o'clock, but it was delayed till 12 o'clock. So myself and this other gentleman, we were in the room for about 2 hours before it started. So about 11:30 or round about then, everybody started coming in. And then Anne and Hollie came in, and they walked right past me, right to the other side of the courtroom, and sat there speaking to Belinda Mackenzie. But I mean, I knew they were along the other side of the room, but I didn't look their way, really, on purpose, I suppose. And then, after a while, the judge started the court, and then he just adjourned for lunch. Now, I never saw, she must have moved from the end of the bench, moved up to let people in beside her. I did not notice she was almost ahead of me. I mean, she looks as though she's ahead of me, but it's at an angle. I did not notice that she had moved up the bench.
Yeah, if you count the amount of people sitting on the benches in the photograph, you'll see they claim that Sylvia was sitting directly behind Hollie, but if you count the people on the benches, you can see she was way off to the side. And then wherever Sylvia was in that room, you can see on the photo, she would have been behind Hollie anyway. So there was nowhere else for her to sit.
Everybody was behind Hollie. We were all in before Hollie and Anne came in. They were one of the last ones. And I mean, there was a corridor between myself, the seats, and the benches where they were sitting. So she had moved along the bench a bit, which I had not noticed, and then it was adjourned for lunch. I never noticed her move along the bench. But she had.
So, can I just say, like, some of the commentary on YouTube is unbelievable. Just really vitriolic against Sylvia for this one thing that's happened.
Can I just clarify, because the questions are coming in. Of course, this is during Robert Greene's trial.
No.
I beg your pardon. Clarify. I beg your pardon. This is obviously the London, when the arraignment with Hollie and Anne in London.
Yes.
Okay.
And there was a big court presence there.
That's right. Okay.
Brian Garish, Bill Maloney, Mackenzie, they were all there. And the word from the court that came back was that Sylvia had turned up and was glaring at Hollie and trying to freak her out and everything.
I never looked.
That's coming from Belinda Mackenzie. And do you know who else was there gearing the crowd up? It was Bill Maloney as well, getting them to chant and slow hand clap Sylvia on the way out, which it's just disgusting behaviour. None of these people knew anything.
No, it doesn't matter, because none of them knew the truth. So really, it doesn't matter what they were shouting.
Yeah.
Makes no difference.
Well, one of them was shouting, "Google Hollie Greig."
No.
Shows how much she
Sorry.
knew about it. It seems that Belinda seemed to have a bit of a renter mob there that were part of the truth movement, and on questioning them, they didn't have a clue what the case was about. They were just told this really good thing was happening that they can demonstrate at.
That's right, because when I was down in the foyer of the courtroom speaking to a few people, they had no idea what was going on.
Yeah,
One lady said that Mr. Greene, he was such a nice man, he was put in prison for a year for handing out some leaflets in the street. She said, "Is that all you know?" And she said, yes, that was all she knew. She knew nothing.
And again, that is a falsehood. It wasn't true.
Oh, it wasn't true. And I just said, "You don't know, do you?" And she said, "No," so I didn't bother telling her.
No, but if you say it enough times, people do get to believe it, don't they? They start to just believe.
Yes.
Yeah. What he was imprisoned for was writing letters naming every one of us to all our neighbours and sending them by post.
That's right.
And we didn't even know that letters had been sent until the police came.
And it was to businesses in the area as well, wasn't it?
Yes, businesses and all the neighbours in each shopping area that people lived in.
So that was what he was charged for.
But they did not know that down in London.
Plus for defying the interdict that the sheriff had taken against him.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, obviously, you're in a situation now where it's caused massive damage to your lives. Okay. What I want to ask, how do you see this now coming right? I mean, what needs to be done?
Can I feel that just...
Is that Sarah? Yes.
Yes.
Go on, Sarah.
What is happening is that the lies are still being put out on the internet, and they're contained in many videos on YouTube, and some of the most horrible videos and some of the ones that are thickest with the lies, they should come down. That is the next step. They should be pulled from YouTube. That is, and that should be happening yesterday. But other people might have other ideas. Carry on.
Yeah, it's difficult to pull things from YouTube. You know, it's a free platform. And the thing about YouTube, people...
It's really easy. Just take your films off.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of people with their own sites, it's so difficult to do it to other people's sites. Those people have their own sites.
But people have to wake up, and people, especially people making videos calling Sylvia a liar and a pig, they really need to examine what they're doing.
Yeah, they totally ignore the amount of lies that have been told by Anne and Robert in this case, but they pick on one inconsistency that they're not interested in any other explanation other than, oh, the witch, blah, 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 you know.
It's like a stock.
But I mean, the one good side of all these videos and interviews having been put out on the internet is it's that information that enabled us to actually find all the lies that were being told and find the inconsistencies and different versions of the stories. And it's only when you start putting the stories and interviews and videos of all the interviews that Anne and Robert did that you start to see this pattern emerging. And the pattern is that the story was not consistent.
Okay. All right. Well, before we go on to the inconsistencies, because that's a biggie. Okay, we'll tackle that. I first want to approach the issue of the people behind this. You have, Sarah, particularly some information, say, for example, about Belinda McKenzie and her involvement with certain things. I think let's speak about the various people who are involved in fueling this campaign.
Okay, so who do you want to hear about first?
Start with Belinda. We'll start there.
Okay, well, could I ask Rachel to perhaps talk about Belinda specifically and Iran Aid?
Yes, yeah, I will, and hopefully Lil will help as well.
Yeah.
Well, although we haven't actually seen it in writing, she hasn't denied the fact that she was a trustee for a charity called Iran Aid, which I think was, the inception was about 1986. I'm not sure on that one particularly, but and she was raising money for this charity for the people of Iran, orphans in Iran, and that went over a long period of time, quite a few years, and then it was investigated because people started complaining about the aggressive ways in which the money was being collected and various sort of aspects. So it was investigated by the Charities Commission, who went in. They tried to retrieve documents, very important documents, which were destroyed.
Which is illegal.
Which is illegal. Belinda claims that she didn't know anything about that. But
then again, there's proof she says that she was part of the involvement of destroying the documents, and her reason was so that the people in Iran would not be discovered.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that the Charities Commission actually didn't find anybody in Iran, be it a person who was ever helped by this charity or any other charity involved in Iran. Nobody had heard of Iran Aid before. Nobody had heard of anybody they had ever helped. And their investigations into what happened to the money, and this is an extremely large amount of money. We're talking about £75 million over a period of, I think, 15 years, vanished into a bank account in Germany, and they could not find where it went after that. It didn't go to Iran. They know that for certain.
Yes.
But nobody's ever been prosecuted for this. Now, we could go off on a slight tangent now to, if you wanted to talk about Belinda McKenzie. What people may not know about Belinda Mackenzie is that when she was at university, her tutor actually wrote a book about spies. He was very interested in spies. He also co-wrote a book with John le Carre, who was a spy. Now, Belinda, seems to have been involved in a lot of truth movement organisations, and in fact they call her place the Highgate Hub. Now, think about this. If you are working for the government, be it directly or indirectly, and they want to keep an eye on the truth movements, wouldn't it be better to have them all going in and out of one place? And she's the main person who's involved in all these organisations. We also know she's branched out not just to the truth movement, because she used to collect the money for the Star Child school, if anybody knows about that, with an organisation she has called Cognizance.
I would just like to say that I met Belinda Mackenzie for the first time at the Nefarious Conference in Brussels in 2009. That we were gassed afterwards in our sleep and our equipment was taken. And Belinda was there raising money for the research, $500,000 that would be needed for the Star Child skull to be DNA tested. And that's how we met her for the first time.
Well, she no longer has involvement with it, but the organisation is still going. So whether she's still collecting the money, who knows?
Which also brings us to Hollie Justice and the Donate Button.
So hang on a sec before we get on to the charity. There's also, if you think that's an outrageous and outlandish accusation to make that she might actually be working for the government, she also used to be the landlady for two quite interesting people who used to be MI5, if you can ever used to be MI5, because one of these people in particular did quite a lot to damage the truth movements. From a lot of people's point of views.
Would this be David Shaler?
This would be David Shaler and Annie
Machon, yes.
Machon. Yeah, she's their landlady.
So do they still live with her?
No, I don't think they do now.
Okay, and what is their association with her before that? Just living with her? Living in a house?
I don't know.
We don't know.
Okay. Now, I would also
we do know that she has attended conferences with them before and gone to speak with them in various places.
Okay.
But, you know, if you are an MI5 asset that was set out to discredit the truth movement, then what better place to reside than another MI5 asset, possibly, or government asset of whatever. This is just suggestions on our part.
Yeah.
It's things that we have looked into and they make you go,
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, but Belinda doesn't hold back in accusing other people of being shills and working for the government and being part of the gang, whoever the gang is. But I mean, she's quite liberal, but accusing other people.
She did say she put £1.4 million into Iran aid herself.
Well, show us your accounts.
Yeah, well, that's right. And also, if you had done that, I'm sure that you'd be making a lot more noise.
Yeah, you'd be the first one in the queue jumping up and down, saying, hey, where's my money? It never went to Iran. But strangely, she's been very silent about that matter.
So where has Belinda come across all this money and her abode rather spaciously in Highgate, which is one of the most expensive suburbs in North London, for those who don't know?
Well, she charges people to go to the hub, which is down the bottom of the garden, I've been told.
Yeah, she has a quite little organisation of all sorts of events and meetings and things that get charged for. So
interesting. So she runs.
The original amount of money, I think she recently stated, came from her father's estate. Was it?
Yeah.
The money left from her father.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which then brings you to Hollie Demands Justice, which donate the button appeared very soon after she became involved.
Yeah, we also have the involvement of the MKO, which were in most countries still are labelled a terrorist organisation, and also she's married to an Iranian who actually lives in France, which is where the MKO are now based.
But he visited Germany, where
there was also
disappeared.
He also had a son, this wonderful person who is her husband, who was in Camp Ashraf, and we know that he was begging his father to get him out of there because he was being abused, and his father refused.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Sweden came in the end and rescued him.
Yeah, it was Sweden that got him out of there in the end.
Yes. Yes.
So basically, there is a potential for Belinda Mackenzie to be massively an MI5 agent who is obviously
a possible
a facilitator
we
within the truth movement.
Well, it's
look at the amount of organisations and little pies that she has her fingers in.
And seemingly with no financial restriction either, which is a big question.
Her income from letting out the spare rooms in her place, and the things she collects for charities and events, which who knows how much that is. Maybe the taxman one day will look into that.
Okay, enough about Belinda. Let's move on. Who do we next need to give serious attention to?
Yeah, well, Pyrite had a very interesting series of conversations with Brian Gerrish and Roger Hayes about the Hollie Greig campaign in particular, and I'd like to read a message from him.
Okay, hold on. Just for 1 second. It's Sarah. You're obviously just saying it's you that's speaking now.
Yeah, it's Sarah
sure.
speaking, but I'm reading from what Pyrite has been saying. So he says, "Hello, and I'm sorry I'm unavailable for this show. We've always been willing to discuss the evidence and facts of the campaign, and in an effort to do so, we've contacted a number of individuals, including Robert Greene, David Icke, Brian Gerrish, Roger Hayes, Ian McFerrin, Belinda Mackenzie, and so on, with all of them completely ignoring us bar Roger Hayes and Brian Gerrish. Roger was in discussions with myself via email and Skype and was a very pleasant and rational individual. His last communication to me before his untimely arrest was that he could clearly see things were not as they seemed with the campaign. I'm sure Roger and I would have had further positive conversations had he not been arrested. After exchanging a number of emails with Brian Gerrish, however, it became obvious to us that he was the complete opposite of Roger. Brian refused to answer any of the inconsistencies and anomalies that we have clearly shown regarding the case, and he dismissed the very obvious evidence that we have collated and shown on the website, and that is the HollieGreigCoverup.net, which is a great website filled with information. Brian's irrationality also extended to me personally when I explained to him that I had met Hollie. In so many words, he accused me of being one of those who may have abused her, and then attempted to intimidate me by suggesting that my IP address was very interesting. On many occasions, Brian would state he would refuse to communicate with me because I was anonymous, although Roger Hayes completely understood my concerns. Yet Brian stands shoulder to shoulder with masked supporters of the Hollie Greig campaign and continued to answer every email anyhow. He continues to this day to suggest Hollie was abused by a 22-strong gang of paedophiles over a 14-year period. This would, of course, result in extreme physical damage. We've discussed that. So we have shown unequivocally that the so-called sheriff is completely innocent. For starters, the sheriff's sisters, named by Hollie, doesn't exist. The sheriff had no sister, or sister-in-law, as Robert Greene later suggested. So how can the house where the alleged abuse took place exist?
Now, was this the house where all the abuse was alleged to have taken place, or one of the places?
Most of it.
Okay.
The brother Hollie named as Jack is not the name of the sheriff's brother. The high-ranking police officer accused was a gentleman called Terry Major, and he was nothing more than a civilian employee. More to the point, he was the husband of Sylvia Major, who was also accused as a paedophile, because everyone named allegedly by Hollie just happened to be friends or acquaintances of her mother, Anne Greig. The other children named by Hollie as abuse victims have since released public statements saying not only were they not abused, they'd never even met Hollie until much later in life when Hollie was around 17 years old. And so this is just a snapshot of some of the obvious blatant lies and inconsistencies within the whole campaign. Any rational thinking individual can see the whole case consists of nothing more than a bunch of made-up allegations by a vengeful and mentally ill woman. As far as Robert Greene is concerned, Anne was introduced to him by Stuart Usher, who has since reiterated to a friend of mine, it looks like Anne has been telling some porkies. It's obvious to all that Robert Greene is nothing but a gullible, kind-hearted man, yet because of his ego, he still cannot believe the facts that are in plain view. The whole campaign also suits the anti-state agenda of Brian Gerrish. There's a great deal of corruption within our politics, as we all know, and police force and judicial system. But taking up campaigns like this without doing any investigations to confirm the validity of the evidence simply because it fits with your own agenda is unprofessional, incompetent, and most definitely not in the public interest. No one, not even Robert Greene, investigated anything. Roger Hayes admitted to me personally that he'd not had the time to do so, and they all simply believed Anne Greig. Personally, I cannot understand how anyone who has problems with social services would allow such an obviously irrational and unbalanced individual in Brian to see personal and private information on such serious matters. And that is the words of Pyrite. And now I have had some communications with Brian Gerrish myself, and I was always trying to be polite and open to being able to have a further discussion with him. But he, in the end, he quite rudely said, well, don't bother emailing me again, because he just wasn't going to listen.
Yeah. Well, I did myself email Brian Gerrish asking him if we could have a Skype interview, a Skype conversation. He didn't even bother to respond to me. But as you ladies know, I'm not part of that whole truth movement clique, which is why I've kind of realised there could be some truth to this, because my own investigations lead me to believe that several people who fronted this campaign potentially could be co-opted, which is, you know, unfortunate. But, okay, so let's move on.
Well, just to sum up.
Yes.
Roger Hayes he did understand that there was something that had to be looked into. But politically, I suppose he had to, he couldn't come down on either side. And then he was arrested. Now, he's out now, and I believe he had a speaking date yesterday evening. And I hope to get in touch with him again to carry on these conversations. But I don't know I don't know what's going to come of that, really. Because basically they have to prop each other up, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, one thing about Brian Gerrish is he continually says that Hollie was raped by high-ranking Scottish officials. And I would very much like Brian Gerrish to name them.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he says that on videos. I've watched so many videos. That's how I have collated so much information. And on every video, he claims that there were 22 high-ranking officials that have raped Hollie or abused Hollie. And I put a challenge out to Brian Gerrish, name them.
Not publicly, you don't have to.
No,
you can send the names and professions of men.
Name them. Name them.
Yeah.
Right.
He just doesn't want to know. I've spoken to him on the phone as well, and he had a very... he didn't have a very good grasp of all the details.
He's read nothing.
No.
He claims he has all the documentation and all the truth comes from the documentation he holds. Again, I challenge him. No, he hasn't. He might have got it in his cupboard, but he hasn't read it. No, even Robert Greene didn't read any information.
Okay. Let's look at some of the inconsistencies then. Let's start picking this apart. What obviously you've mentioned that the sister of the sheriff did not exist, therefore the house couldn't have existed. That is to me the most obvious, and okay, you can't ignore that. we can't ignore the fact that nothing was reported for over a decade about physical marks on Hollie's body if she had in fact been abused by 22 people repeatedly, which, and I will say myself as someone who has suffered abuse as a child, know is there. Yeah. Yes. Now I want to put this across to you all. What else is the most obvious evidence for people to have a look at?
Oh gosh. Okay, I'll take one. Variations.
Sorry, who's that?
It's Lateks.
Okay, Lateks.
Variations of what Anne told people that happened after she was sectioned, because we have, in analysing all the information, found 2 variations, and recently we've actually just come across a 3rd version that she told. Now, in one version, she said when she was sectioned that Hollie was put into care. As the story progressed, she then told a version that said that Hollie was given back to her so-called abusive father. And in a recent version we've come across, she actually states that Hollie was so distraught that they put her into the mental hospital with Anne.
Okay.
And as I said earlier, the truth does not change.
Yeah.
That's right. Robert Greene even states that Hollie was given back to her abusive father, and that's not correct. Dennis was actually working away.
That's right. Yeah. He hasn't seen his daughter for about 12 years. That's right.
Now, what about Hollie's brother? We've not heard much from him at all, not speaking out publicly.
Can I just state that Anne has actually lied to several people. Greg has made several attempts to try and contact his mother. Greg is devastated. He is so distraught, and Anne needs to accept responsibility for her treatment of Greg and what she has done to him. He used to be so loved by Anne, and at first she started to say that Greg had possibly been abused also, and then this turned later into that Greg was an abuser also. Now, we know that Brian Gerrish was contacted, we know that GLW was contacted, and we through Pyrite have contacted Greg as well. Now, Anne has lied and said that this is not her son.
Wow.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
That's profound.
Numerous letters all over the place.
He has.
They are heartbreaking. If you were to know the damage that she has caused him, it is so heartbreaking to know that a mother could actually do this to her own son and then deny that it was him.
Yeah.
But I mean, Wyn, you knew probably Greg the best.
Poor Greg is absolutely devastated, like you said.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you have stories about Greg, don't you, Wyn?
Yeah. I sort of had him knocking on my door late at night in a terrible state, crying his eyes out, just devastated, because this was a boy who was his mum's sort of, I wouldn't say favourite, but she absolutely adored Greg, and suddenly she's not there anymore. So how could he be feeling absolutely lost in space? It's terrible.
Yes, he has been trying to contact her, but there's been no response from her.
He's written letters everywhere in the last 3 years. He's written to the press. He's written to, I think he's written to Alex Salmon. He's written to the police. He's written to Shropshire. He has written hundreds of letters. Plus the ones addressed to his mother, pouring his heart out.
And Anne's excuse is that Hollie would be too scared of him.
I'm actually going to introduce one of the bits of information that we talked about earlier here.
Yeah, that's Lil, Lateks Lil.
Yes, yeah, this is Lil. Now, we recently were provided with some information from an anonymous source, and we know who else this information was sent to. And we also have had one of the documents verified by the police that this was actually genuine, so we actually have no reason to doubt that the other documents that were provided are also genuine. Now, something that Anne has never told people, it seems, is that she tried to get an injunction out against her son Greg to stop him from seeing Hollie. And one occasion, Greg had gone to the place where Anne was staying and tried to talk to Hollie. He waited there. Anne and Hollie showed up in the car, and he tried to talk to Hollie. And Anne went mental and tried to get him away, and he refused to leave. And Anne said she was going into the house to call the police, and he said, "Fine, I've done nothing wrong, go and call them." So she called the police. The police turned up and discovered that Hollie actually wanted to talk to Greg. She missed him. Hollie loved Greg.
Of course she did.
Yeah. Now, the police even told Anne to stop wasting their time, because she was ringing them up about every 2 weeks. And they eventually, this is why they interviewed the husband after a year and a half. Also, something that needs to be pointed out is that Anne and Robert always claimed that once Hollie made these allegations that Dennis and Greg fled to Portugal, which again is an absolute lie. They did not flee to Portugal. They happened to own a property in Portugal, and the plan was that the whole family was going to move there. And it was how long, Wyn, after the first allegation was made, that they actually went to Portugal?
Well, Greg stayed in my flat for about a year, so it was round about the year mark.
Yeah, well, that was Greg, but Dennis might have gone sooner, because the house, the family home had been sold, and where was he going to live when he owned it?
And Anne kept most of the contents, including Dennis's computer, by the way. If you asked earlier about Dennis's computer, ask Anne, because she kept it.
She kept everything.
Yeah, including Dennis's family's possessions.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
And she could have handed that into the police.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to know, ask Anne about Dennis's.
So now Dennis has got no family photos of his family, because she took them all. She took his mother's jewellery. When he came home from offshore and entered the house, everything was virtually gone.
There was a sofa left, I think. A sofa, because she couldn't take it.
But all the antiques that they had collected together were all gone. So she's nobody's fool.
Yeah. So to reiterate, Anne tried to take a court injunction out to stop her son from seeing Hollie, and Hollie wanted to see Greg because she missed him and she loved him, and the police and the court found in Greg's favour. They said there was no reason, and they could see it was Anne trying to stop him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. Okay, we're going to take a little break, and we'll come back. No, hang on, guys. We're having a little bit of a technical difficulty here. We'll carry on with some questions. First off, hang on. I am choking here. Do the two accused ladies think that this matter can ever be resolved? I mean, Wyn and Sylvia, how are we going to put this right? This is the most important thing for us to look at.
Oh dear.
Well, the damage has been done, really.
But I mean, in terms of, would you be interested in having a full-on public hearing?
Yes.
Certainly wouldn't refuse that, no.
Because all this information would have to come out in court then.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We actually, all of us, you know, all the accused that we have spoken to, you know, the accused and the alleged victims, all the people that have looked into this story, we would all love for it to go to court and for the full truth to be known. Because I'd love to see how they're going to call to court someone who doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is it.
Yeah. And
what are they going to do? Make Wyn and Sylvia's children stand in court and tell them they've got to tell the jury that they've been abused?
when they deny they ever were.
Yeah. They weren't, no.
Well,
They were
my
not
sons, sorry.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, they were not even children when they first met Hollie.
Well, in fact, Catherine has never met Hollie.
No.
Jennifer, I remember seeing her once or twice when she was about 18. Well, Hollie was 18, but Jennifer was about 20-odd then, so she would have just met her in the passing.
And my sons were both in their 20s when they ever set eyes.
Which one, Wyn? John?
Yes, we'll talk about Wyn's son John later, I think.
Yeah, we'll save that for later.
I've lost him.
Yeah, he was the best one, you said, Wyn, wasn't he?
Yeah.
There's no trouble at all.
I'd like to answer, Mel, your question of where we can go with this now.
Yes.
And I would...
Sorry, this is Sarah speaking.
Yeah, this is Sarah. And in my mind, this has all been disproved. It's quite obvious now that none of the stories make any sense and they're not correct. So I mean, I'm already moving forward, and I'm sure that other people are as well. I mean, I followed the Hollie Greig campaign closely for 2 years, and I can see the sea change in people's attitudes, and I do think it's reflecting very badly on the truth movement in the UK, because people have come to the Hollie Greig campaign and used it for their own means, and without doing any of the background checking. And people who have followed them and wanted to believe in big conspiracies, wanting to believe that the world is run by paedophiles or whatever, Satanists, or as David Icke, Masonic Satanists, then they're realising that that's just not the case. So, I mean, it's really up to the truth movement in itself to have a look at what they're saying. And everybody who wants to follow Brian Gerrish, Roger Hayes, has to look at what these people are saying. So that's my hope, is that there can be some openness and some being able to talk about it. And there was always my hope with Gerrish that I could communicate with him in some way, that we could talk about it. So I would still be appealing tonight. Can we discuss it openly, without fear of being called pedo protectors, MI5, shills, trolls, everything that I've been called constantly? But I mean, it's like water.
Well, this seems to happen. Everybody that starts to doubt or question the story gets this string of names and accusations hurled at them.
Yeah. So that's my wish, an amnesty. Can we have an openness and talk about things openly without fear of being called basically a pedo, which is kind of the worst thing you can call somebody these days. What, pedo, murderer? You know, it's the worst.
well, take that recent case of a man that was accused of being a paedophile. He wasn't. He was beaten to death by a mother and her son. And this is, people do not think of the consequences of publicly calling somebody a paedophile with absolutely no proof whatsoever. There are vindictive people out there. There are mentally ill people out there. You shouldn't encourage mentally ill people in their delusions or their want for vengeance against somebody.
Yes, that is the bottom line, that these people, Brian Gerrish and Belinda McKenzie, are supporting a woman who's ill. They're supporting her illness, and that is what has really got to change. That the people...
Well, they basically have to accept that Anne is mentally ill.
Well, the trouble is, I don't think she's really got many real friends left around her, because that's what she needs now. She needs real friends that can give her proper help. She does need to be helped.
Wyn was a real friend of Anne. Yeah. She tried to get help. She got put on the list.
So absolutely.
Anne has to accept she has a problem. Anne knows she's been telling lies.
She needs some real friends around her, and they're going to be
they're not
hard
the people that are surrounding her now.
No. They're just feeding.
They have agendas.
Yes.
Elle, can I just say something?
That's Wyn speaking there. Yeah?
Yeah. All this tosh that's been in the internet and all this evil, nasty things that have been said. At one time there were about 27,000 followers all over the world. Now, my name's been bandied across Google, YouTube, in the worst possible way. Can you imagine the legacy that this leaves for our families? You know, I mean, this stuff is in the ether forever. It's horrendous.
Yes, imagine your grandchildren Googling your name and finding that.
Yes,
Disgraceful.
it is.
Yes, horrible.
Well, of course, there is the long-term impact, and I've got some questions coming in. Hold on a second, Richard. You want to read them out for us?
Yeah. Since it's basically slander, why are you not taking people like Brian Kerrish, David Icke, Mackenzie, Anne and Robert to court for defamation of character?
Did you guys get that?
Yeah. Okay, let's have a look at the law. Yes. Now, Scotland and England, the law varies, but basically, as the law stands, you can call anybody anything on the internet and in public, but if you put it on printed paper, you then have a case for defamation. Now, unfortunately, Wyn and Sylvia and the other accused can't take Anne and Robert to court unless they pay for it. And they are innocent people. Why should innocent people have to pay to defend themselves because somebody called them a paedophile? It's not right.
And it would cost thousands.
It would. I mean, it is wrong. It is so wrong that anybody under the law at the moment, you can say whatever you want all over the world on the internet about someone, and there's nothing they can do in the eyes of the law until it gets put on printed paper. And this is what happened when the sheriff took them to court, because Robert and others had put it onto printed paper. Now, the law is antiquated. It deals with newsprint. It needs to take into account that we are living in a digital age now, and a handout, a leaflet, a letter only gets distributed amongst the people that it's physically given to. Whereas you put one thing on the internet, it's all over the world and there's nothing you can do about it. So 22 people have been publicly named on the internet, and the only way at the moment, as the law stands, that they can clear their names is for them to go out of pocket and take Anne to court. Now, it's okay saying, well, if you're innocent, you'll win your case. But, I mean, let's take Robert Greene, for example. The sheriff, who was totally innocent, he didn't even live in Aberdeen when the accusations were being made. He didn't even work there when he was supposed to have. He took an injunction, cost about, I think was it about £7,000?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, about £7,000. And the costs were awarded against Robert Greene. Robert Greene is supposed to pay this. He still hasn't. Yeah, so, and Anne, how are you going to get this money out of Anne? How are you going to get it out of Robert? They're refusing to pay it because they're using any old law, Freeman law, this clause, that capital letter, whatever. That's how they're viewing it. They're trying every tactic they can to not pay this money that they are liable for. So why should Wyn and Sylvia be out of pocket to prove their own innocence when only, a few handful of people with enough time and inclination to do so, I guess you should say, to prove whether they are lying or telling the truth? We have proven time and time again that Anne has lied. Robert has helped cover this up. And people, they're either going to consider it or they're not going to believe you because you're a paedophile or you're a supporter of a paedophile or you're a shill or a government plant or whatever they want to call you, because the truth doesn't interest them. What is provable doesn't interest them. They're more interested in slagging off Sylvia because she happened to be sitting a couple of pieces behind a bench where she was actually sitting first. So, I mean, if you want to turn that argument on its head, Hollie and Anne sat in front of her. Whereas they're more concerned with whether someone used a fake name on the internet. doesn't matter that that person might actually be telling them the truth. They would rather hear lies from a person with a real name than truth from someone with a fake name.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, it comes back to people wanting to believe in conspiracies, doesn't it, I think?
Yeah.
Well, this is it. They want to believe Hollie was raped by a masked gang and the Scottish government, police, autopsy, everything, covered it all up.
It would have killed her if that had happened, I would say.
Yeah,
Well, it's the same
absolutely. You know what? This has always been my logic, and I will say this within the truth movement is, you know, we have experienced ourselves a lot of difficulty, and I can honestly tell you, Freedom Central is 100% co-opted. There are lots of people that we have found are very co-opted within this movement, having experienced it for ourselves, and we do know that they make life very difficult for those of us who aren't controllable. So I know that, yes, they will take you out if you know too much. They sacrifice people all the time, you know, in rituals. There are people who do it, you know. Not saying it is the Scottish government, I'm saying it's not. I'm saying there is evidence, absolutely. I've got witness testimony of these people who engage in this sort of practice. So, yes, of course, there's all the stuff that can fuel it from different angles, but some people then might paint it into a picture that it particularly is not.
Well, this is it, Mel, that if it is really going on, then surely it is best to get the absolute definitive proof that it's going on instead of making up and believing lies.
Yeah.
You know, if there's satanic abuse going on in my country, I want to know about it.
Yeah.
If there's you know, I want to know the real truth, and that is, you know, the Hollie Greig case has cast aspersions on people who are proclaiming the truth, that they know the truth.
I think, Sarah, you've hit the nail on the head there, and which I believe possibly could be the absolute primal example of what's been done with, you know, the Hollie Greig case as an example of exactly what they do to people to keep them distracted. Perversion, diversion. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, how many people, kids that are actually being abused or actually having a really bad time, and they've not got donate buttons, they've not got people running campaigns for them. You know, this has been a massive distraction.
Yeah. Yeah. No, honestly, you know, we can tell you that ourselves, that, you know, we've suffered because we know there are people who distract with false information, who are getting loads of donations, and yet there's so many people we could speak to if we could travel to them in an interview, but we don't have the resources to do it because there are other people taking up resources that should be going to, you know, the people who are donating. This is where what frustrates me. The people who are donating genuinely think they're doing a good thing, but all they're doing is fueling the demon they think they're fighting.
Yeah. Correct. Yes.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely true.
So Mel, what do you think as a truth advocate, what do you think can be done so there can be discussion about it without people getting sidetracked?
Well, I'll tell you what I am going to do. First thing, I mean, what I can do from within my own power is what I look at first. Because obviously, you know, you approached me and, you know, I looked at this with all fairness and honesty and decided to give you a platform to say this. So what I'm going to do is approach the various people that you've mentioned. I'll be emailing them this clip and asking them for a response and sending them an invitation to come and appear on the show. Engage in a...
Could I invite some of them myself?
Absolutely. Sarah, I'll send it to you. Please invite them and we can have an open discussion between all of us on the show, and we can have an open forum. Everybody have their say and people can put their points across.
If came on, or Brian Garish or Belinda McKenzie, I would welcome to have a chat with them in all friendliness and discuss the whole thing openly. I would really enjoy that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I would just like to say a fair amount of questions. In fact, a large proportion of the questions that I got sent in tonight were by Ian McFerrin, but they're very, very detailed. And what I will do... What I will do is I will actually send a copy of some of these questions across to you so that you can, anybody wants to answer them in more detail, because I can't go through all of this now on the show. We're running out of time.
Because it's too much information, and the website, Hollie Greig Cover Up, is an excellent source of information for anybody independently wanting to research themselves. But I would welcome answering any of Ian McFerrin's questions anytime. Now, he blocked me a long time ago on Facebook, so he can't even see anything that I'm saying. But, I'm open to talking to him anytime.
Okay. Right. Now, just to say that website again, holliegreigcoverup.com or...
HollieGreigCoverup.net.
.net. Okay. HollieGreigCoverup.net. We will put that on the title. Okay. So now going back to the two ladies, Wyn and Sylvia. Let's talk about when you first found out that you'd been accused. Okay. I think we start with Sylvia first because we've not heard too much from you, Sylvia. When you first heard that you were accused, what was your initial reaction?
I just laughed. Dennis was accused as well, and he showed me this document that said that Anne had accused him, and he kept saying, read on, read on. And then I saw my name, and I just laughed out loud. There was nothing else to do. It was just ridiculous. Absolutely.
At the time, did you think it would escalate into what it has?
Absolutely not. And there was nothing heard for the next 10 years. This was 13 years ago then. So I didn't hear again until 3 years ago when all this letters came round all my neighbourhood, our neighbourhood. Yeah.
Now, do any of you know how Robert Greene initially got involved with this case?
He was speaking. He was making a speech concerning his travel agency or corruption in the travel agency, because he used to run his own travel agency. He used to have a partner, and Stuart Usher saw him and asked if he would be prepared to take on the case of Anne Greig. So that's how Robert got involved with Stuart Usher.
All right, Stuart Usher. Now, how was he connected to the case?
He was
Stuart Usher
Scotland against crooked lawyers.
Yes, that's right.
A website in Scotland at the time, Scotland Against Crooked Lawyers, and Anne approached him with her story, and he didn't feel that he could do so much about it, or except one member of his group did get a settlement for Anne of I think it was something in excess of £40,000. And so he had a wee bit of success for her there, but then he got Robert Greene as an independent investigator, passed the whole case over to him. Now Robert started, I mean, one of the things that Robert didn't do was, and he said he was doing, was investigating it, but he didn't. He didn't do any investigation at all. In fact, he'd never even been to Aberdeen at all until he went up and he was arrested that first time. So, he when he says he's an investigator, I cannot agree with him. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, it was on. I understand that the actual show's been taken down now. One of the Ford Rockton shows, and they were talking about the post-mortem, and also the sheriff's sister came up as well, because it was just after the Mark Daly from the BBC had phoned in, and Robert and Mark had a bit of a confrontation on there, and it showed there that nobody investigated anything, because it was that day that Stuart Usher actually admitted that he'd never even seen the autopsy report. So he was going on word of mouth, hearsay, as to what the autopsy report said. He was, making statements about it, and then he had to admit that he had only seen it that morning, and it didn't say what Anne and Robert said it had. Yeah, and also, to do with Evelyn Buchanan, they swapped it. Oh, well, it wasn't the sister. It must have been the sister-in-law. And how did Stuart Usher find that out? He phoned Anne, and Anne said, well, my friend told me, so, we just took it in good faith.
Now we're actually going to issue a challenge here, because you actually don't have to believe anything that we say tonight or any of the evidence that we're going to present to you tonight. But I'm actually sitting looking at a copy of the autopsy report now. And I can tell you it does not say what Anne and Robert have claimed publicly in interviews that it does. Now, you don't have to believe me. You can ask Stuart Usher this, because he, on this programme just mentioned, confirmed it doesn't say what they claim it does. Now, I'm not going to read any of this out because I think it's personal and private information, but if they want to argue that I'm lying, they only have to do one thing: show the autopsy report.
Can I just say, this is obviously the autopsy for Anne's brother.
Yes, this is for Anne's brother.
So tell us what it actually says, if you've got it there. If you can.
Do you want me to summarise, or do you want me to talk technical? Because I really would not feel comfortable going into a lot of the details.
Yeah.
I can, actually, this will verify that I'm telling the truth, because on the Mark Daly show, he mentioned about a contusion on the head. Now, I have searched this autopsy report and there is only one mention of contusion, and it doesn't appear on the head. It was something to do with the lungs, but I am nowhere wouldn't even pretend to know anything about a medical diagnosis in an autopsy. But having read what the wording was, it was something to do with the lungs. But basically, we know that the brother died as a result of an attempted suicide, that he did have a liquid in his stomach that was alcohol that had been consumed within 20 minutes before the death, that the injuries sustained were consistent with attempts to resuscitate him, and you have to bear in mind it was not just the person that found him who they have accused of actually murdering him. And let's think about it this way. If, as their conspiracy theory goes, this person wanted to kill the brother, why not just leaving it in a burning car? Why try and save him? But anyway, regardless of that, there is no beaten to death, which is what Robert Greene has claimed before, that he was basically black and blue all over from having been beaten and thrown unconscious into a car. The injuries sustained are consistent with being taken from a car that was burning. There was carbon monoxide in his body, which was consistent with the attempted suicide from a pipe that went from the exhaust into the car. There was cyanide poisoning, which was coming from the car engine fire, which was a very common fault also with catalytic converters in those days. If you actually investigate that, you'll see it was a common cause of fire in cars. And as I said, the alcohol that he consumed, and again, this brings into account an interview that Anne gave where she's categorically stated he never touched whiskey. He hated whiskey, he never touched it at all. And 5 minutes later she said yes, he had the occasional drink of whiskey. But anyway, it does not state in the autopsy it was whiskey, but it does state, I can tell you how much alcohol, if you like. Samples of blood and urine and stomach contents were submitted to the Department of Clinical Biochemistry, Aberdeen Royal Infirmary, for toxicological analysis. A copy of a report prepared for the Procurator Fiscal discloses a blood alcohol level of 215 milligrams stroke 100 millilitres and a urine alcohol level of 204 milligrams stroke 100 millilitres. A blood cyanide level of 2.9 milligrams stroke 1 was recorded, and the blood was 57% saturated with carbon monoxide. Screening of the urine and stomach contents for the presence of a variety of drugs proved negative. I'm reading from the very last part of the last paragraph, which now states, at the time of his death, he was considerably under the influence of alcohol, and the relative values of blood and urine alcohol indicate he was still in an absorptive phase of the alcohol stroke absorption elimination curve, therefore was within 20 minutes to half an hour of his last alcohol consumption. injuries to the chest are probably related to efforts at resuscitation. Now, it wasn't just the person that found him, it was also the paramedics in the ambulance that also tried to resuscitate him afterwards.
There was the fire brigade and the ambulance as well that resuscitated him, or CPR.
Yeah.
And just to put this into context, Mel, right up until Anne met Robert, she believed her brother committed suicide.
Totally.
Yes. It was fabricated into a murder scenario after the event.
After Robert Greene showed up.
Yeah.
Now, what Robert Greene claimed is that the brother had absolutely no reason at all to kill himself, and he had no financial problems whatsoever, and this turned out not to be true, because he was suspended from his job at the time as a manager of a pub for financial irregularities and stock being missing. And we also discovered, I think this is correct, isn't it, Wyn, that they actually co-owned Anne, her husband, and Anne's brother co-owned the house that they all lived in, although for some reason Anne tries to make out that he lived somewhere else occasionally. But anyway, after his death, it was discovered that Anne's brother had actually never, ever paid any of his part of the mortgage.
That's right, sure, that's right. So that would have been a considerable amount of money.
Yes, because the amount that Dennis was putting in every month covered it. So there was never a reason to check up on it.
So if you say that this guy had no reason to kill himself, you know, then you have to wonder why they lied about this. He did have financial problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right, ladies. This has been a very, very interesting discussion, and there are so many questions that I want to ask that I'm still trying to still trying to collect my thoughts here. I think before I do that, can I just ask, is there any statements that any of you would like to make at this point before we run out of time?
Oh, how much time do we have left?
Yes, I think we have 24 minutes.
Right, a lot to cram in 24 minutes.
Yeah.
I think I would say on behalf of everybody here, please, people, consider what we are saying. You have not been told the truth. You've been told anything but the truth. You have been told a version which has omitted a lot of information, and we've recently been given this information from an anonymous source who I don't know, I can only presume they've grown a conscience. But we would love it to go to court. We really would, because it might put an end to the horrendous... How can you even put it into words what these allegations have done to innocent people's lives?
Yeah.
Now, and I mean, and I know that Sylvia and Wyn are going to back me up here. Sylvia and Wyn don't hate Anne. They really, really don't. I mean, we've gotten to know them so well recently. What Sylvia and Wyn want is for Anne to get help, and for those people who are surrounding her to stop what they're doing. Just stop. Think about what you are doing to innocent people. They don't want Hollie taken away from her. Hollie is probably best with Anne, but Hollie needs to be taken into consideration here. And the problem is that everyone seems to be forgetting Hollie in all of this. And we know, and I might be a bit out of line for saying this, but we know that Hollie recently has been self-abusing herself. And this is really, really sad. We know she's so lonely. She's got no friends. She's been taken away from everybody that ever loved her. She's been programmed, literally, to lie.
Yes.
And it is so sad. And Anne needs help. Anne needs to accept she's mentally ill. She knows she's been lying. We can prove she's been lying. So a lot of it we can't actually say what we now know from this information we were given recently. But we can say, and I will say this, I will bring in another piece of information, is that we've actually been provided with the interviews that Hollie gave to the police and that was conducted in Shropshire. And we know, like I said, you don't have to believe anything that we say about the autopsy, but we do challenge Anne and Robert, as they have talked about this autopsy continuously, to actually publish it and show people who's actually telling the truth here. But the one document that we were given, we do know is genuine, because we have checked this with the police, is Hollie's interview with Shropshire and the appropriate adults and the policewoman. And Hollie seems to reel off a laundry list of people who seem to be pretty much everybody that she ever knows. And again, this is what we mentioned earlier. She also called Wyn's son John one of her abusers. Now, Wyn doesn't have a son called John, but what is really in, we are not going to go into the contents of this document at all, but I'm going to say this: Anne has lied to you, because Hollie in this interview actually named pretty much every single person she ever knew and made some names up as well. And of the omitted names, the ones that actually do exist in real life happened to have been friends and relatives of Anne. Now think about this, people. Hollie named other people, but they never appeared on that list of 22 people that was named publicly. Why? Because those people were friends of Dennis's, or sided with Dennis in Wyn's case. Wyn was actually Anne's friend until she helped Dennis get her to the hospital because they had doubts and concerns about her mental state. So Anne turned on Wyn. Now, you have to question why, if Hollie named these people, why are they not on this public list?
Yeah.
Because some of them were relatives of Anne that she was still seeing.
But Hollie named them, so surely they should be on the list.
Oh, she made some boobs, didn't she?
Well, she made a lot of... If you could read
Yes.
this, you know, we're not going to tell you what it contains other than this, because your son does not exist, Wyn, called John.
No.
You don't have a son called John, but Hollie named him.
Don't.
So we will mention that, because nobody is going to get into trouble, because there is nobody called John.
So how do you bring them to court?
Yeah, how
Can you not see how the police looked at this and, you know, people that don't exist, the wrong names?
We can also see how the police started to doubt Hollie's story, because I will say this: when they questioned her about what had happened, she said the same three things for every single person, but when she was pressed for details, she couldn't give any.
Oh, and we need to point out as well that this is the interview that Robert insists he sat outside and listened to. And if he did, then
He's lied to you also.
yeah, I've seen some of the interviews that he's given whereby he's described what he heard sitting outside the door, and it doesn't correspond with this whatsoever.
No.
And we know that this one document is genuine, because we confirmed the names that were never made public with the police, and they said yes, those names were on this document. So we know this document is genuine.
Yes, and well, I would like to add to that as well, that it goes deeper as well. It goes into another level when more people started to become involved in the Hollie Greig case and jump on the bandwagon and try to use it for themselves. Now, those people, well, one of them I can say was Valerie Sinison, and another man called Wilfred Wong. Now, so the connections are quite difficult to explain, so I might ask Lil or Rachel to talk about that.
Okay. Sorry,
We'll carry on.
We mentioned earlier about Eva Harding. Now, I said that I would bring up some information about Eva Harding and Tavistock. Mr. Hardy worked for Tavistock. Now, if you know anything about the Tavistock Institute, if you don't, I suggest you go and investigate them. Valerie Sinerson worked for the Tavistock Institute. Now, they have a really interesting history, basically to do with mind control of people and trying to get them to do things or say things that are not true.
Wow.
And they also, you mentioned Wilfred Wong. I'm actually, again,
in satanic abuse.
I'm going to read from a document now. Some of you may have heard that Robert Greene the other year actually went to Parliament to go and speak to some MPs in private in a room there about the Hollie Greig case. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are actually going to be surprised by what I read out here, this one paragraph from this, and I quote, "The events took place in Aberdeen, and despite Hollie clearly identifying all her abusers, her father was interviewed on one occasion only and her brother 2 years later. Hollie had revealed to her mother that she had been repeatedly ritually abused at various satanic ceremonies which she was forcibly taken to, and she had even witnessed the ritual murder of an adult male." You ever heard that version before? Because that's what Robert Greene told members of Parliament. At the behest of Wilfred Wong, who is very good friends with Valerie Sinerson. And if you don't know who she is, read up her connection to do with satanic ritual abuse. Also, you may remember the story several years ago of the little boy's body that was found dismembered in the River Thames.
Yes, Adam, I called him.
Yeah, go and read up on her involvement with that case. Basically, these people want you to believe that these satanic ritual murders happen every day.
And yes, and can we just clarify here that Wilfred Wong told Robert what to say in Parliament. He told him to sex it up to this parliamentary meeting.
And it's no surprise that several members, we were told, actually walked out of the meeting.
Oh, of course, and Valerie Sinerson was connected with the Carol Myers.
Yeah.
She was never ever abused. But
such a sad story.
Yeah, she convinced her that she had been.
And the damage and the parallels caused in that story, it's heartbreaking. If you go and read up what happened there, and she was instrumental in that case, and now she's got a no clause into the Hollie Greig case.
Yeah, so you can see that it's grown. It's been flowered out all the way along. It's grown into something that started off small, and it's grown into this.
Well, I remember because I have watched all of the videos, unfortunately, but I've watched all of the videos, and I can remember one specific video where Robert stood there and said that Hollie told, and I'm not sure who she told, that Hollie had said that she had been at sex orgies where, you know, Wyn and Sylvia and all the others, the women held the children down, the other 7 that were meant to have been abused that weren't abused, held them down while the men raped them. Now, these are children that say they've never been abused.
So 20 years old.
20, yes, 20.
So how would that stand up in court? How would any lawyer deal with that situation when you have these allegations and then you have adults saying, look, I've never been abused? You can't make them say they have if they haven't. It would just be thrown out of court completely, and Anne and Robert know this.
You also have to bear in mind that Hollie would get put on the stand and they would rip her to shreds. They would destroy Hollie. Because Hollie, she can't tell you what happened because nothing happened. She makes it up because she tells you what she thinks you want to hear.
Yeah.
And something else as well is that what they're hoping for with this court case to do with whether Hollie is competent or not is because if they find her competent, they want to release a book in the United States, which of course would avoid British libel laws, which would tell Anne's side of the story. And this author is the one that recently published a book to do with the McCann story.
Fake abduction.
Fake abduction, yeah.
So
they're trying to keep this quiet because they don't want people to know about it, but they want Hollie to be found competent in court so that they can then release this book, which again is going to make some money and is going to carry on libelling people that are totally innocent, and there's nothing that can be done in the British courts unless Wyn and Sylvia go out of pocket themselves.
Yeah.
So I'd like to just jump in there and say a few words about that. Obviously, this campaign has attracted a lot of people that have very genuine feelings. Anybody who hears about a Down syndrome girl suffering such terrible abuse, of course they are going to be sympathetic, and they have got involved for genuine reasons, and they believe it, and they're horrified, and they donate money, and they are being exploited. And if you go back over what has been said by the official website, which is called holliedemandsjustice.org, you can see how it's been promoted to emotionally drag the feelings of people into this so much and the facts have all been put to one side. The facts are seemingly unimportant in this case. It's all to do with how people feel about it and their emotional response. And people do have a very emotional response to it, and they don't always. So it's either, I don't know how much money's been donated. Would anybody care to have a guess? I mean,
I suppose it's like Hollie Demands Justice legal team. I mean, we've been asking for details of them. Please, can we have the details of your legal team?
They threaten us with their legal team, but they won't actually tell us who they are, because we love to speak to them.
They're going to take me to court. I've heard that several times.
I think Wyn and Sylvia are still waiting for something to come through their letterbox as well.
But really, for the supporters, a lot of very genuine people supported it, and
I did. We all did. Everybody got drawn in by the emotion, the hysteria, and you do. I mean, it's awful, and if you've suffered at the hands of abuse, then you can relate to it, and as time drew on, you could actually see how the people that were so vehement, so adamant about it, also had issues of their own. They also had, the problems with some authority
taken away, or
so they related to it. It's like Hollie Greig case was going to be their saviour. It was going to be, if we can nail this, we've beaten the Scottish establishment, and it's just plain and simple that everybody related in some way to this cause, either abuse, a judge, the police. Everybody had some sort of issues that and they just saw it in the Hollie Greig case, and because it was so repetitive, because the story was told over and over again, what can people do but believe? And I believed it, but it just took a bit of time.
The very worrying thing for me is that Brian Gerrish keeps telling me about how many families are coming to him with their problems and their troubles, and that he might be some sort of last-ditch attempt for them to get their kids back or fight against the authorities, when really he hasn't done anything to assist. He's only assisting his own career. So there's families going to him in all genuine hope of getting their problems solved, and what is he saying to them? What is he doing? That is a very dangerous situation.
Yes. I mean, when he can't even get the fact, for the reasons for Robert that he got arrested for, he doesn't even know that. That's the simplest one.
He doesn't know. David Icke doesn't know. you know, I heard David Icke saying...
Well, David Icke's actually been removing posts recently. I mean, how's this for a truth movement and for someone who supposedly values the truth? You try and talk about the opposite side of the Hollie Greig story and all the information that we have discovered, and they're removing the posts.
Yes, exactly. I was banned from his forums for life.
They don't know the meaning of truth. None of them.
Well, it's very worrying.
Well, truth doesn't change.
No, the truth. You know, nobody has to believe the truth for the truth to still be the truth. You know, the truth is always the truth.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. The truth in this is just being twisted and damaging people.
Manipulated for people's own careers within the truth movement. They think they can get a career by setting up a cheap YouTube studio and firing out news on a sort of nightly basis. But, I mean, you got yourself, what are they saying and where are they getting their information from?
Exactly. Yeah, but Sarah, how many of these people actually bothered to get the other side of the story? Nobody went to Wyn or Sylvia.
No.
Well, nobody's read anything as far as I know. It always seems to me that they say, you get the questions asked and you think to yourself, well, hold on a minute, this has all been explained before. And if you don't know, do what we did. Phone the people up. Phone the CICA. It's like we phoned the, everybody's saying, oh, Hollie had a sexually transmitted disease. No, it doesn't say that anywhere. It says she had perianal warts. Now, phone the helpline. I will give you that number too, Mel, so that people can actually phone the helpline. And the experts will tell you how these can appear, how it can happen.
And it is not just a sexually transmitted disease. It can actually be transmitted
bad hygiene,
by various.
Skin to skin, hands.
Even mother to daughter.
Yes. So, nowhere in any document that I've seen, and if somebody could provide me with that document and show me, brilliant, but I have not seen a document anywhere that says sexually transmitted disease.
You also have to remember that Hollie had a lot of medical problems, not just because of being Downs, but I mean, Wyn can tell you more about the actual complications physically that she had, and she was checked regularly.
Yeah, somebody would have seen something. And again, like you mentioned earlier, Dr. Paul Carter, we know because we have seen in his own letters, he states categorically there is no evidence whatsoever that Hollie was ever sexually abused. But he did say that Anne and her husband were looking for contraception for Hollie. Yes, at the age of 13, they were both at the doctors asking for contraception. Perhaps because she had a boyfriend. I don't know, I'm surmising.
She did have a boyfriend.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, but this is not what Anne told the Police Complaints Commission or Eva Harding.
No.
Anne gave her one version and it was never questioned.
But there was also the school that Hollie went to. I know for a fact that one of the kiddies in the school got pregnant. So I expect Dennis and Anne had thought, oh, maybe we should make sure this doesn't happen to Hollie. Because when she's at school, they can't look after her.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So there's lots of aspects to this, and there is a lot of information out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's more than 2 hours, Mel, as I think that you can...
We could be here for 2 weeks,
We'll say that the website name again, it's called the Hollie Greig Coverup.net, and it's got a lot on it, and I encourage people to go and look.
And and again, Mel, we are... People can ask us questions. I mean, we're on Facebook and people have asked us questions and we've done our best to give accurate information to people. If somebody asks us a question, we don't call them names. We try hard to get that information to people.
Yeah. And again, it's like we said earlier that sometimes we have to repeat these questions. Again, we keep being asked the same things over, especially the payout. That seems to be the main question we get asked about, the payout. But as we said, it's not an admission of anything, and they can only base it on what information they were given at the time. And as up until recently, no one has ever questioned Anne's story. Nobody has ever done a investigation of Hollie where they've actually asked her about her contradictions.
Okay, I must stop you there, Lil, because we are about to run out of time. All right, but I would just like to take a moment before we do to say thank you to everybody who has actually come onto the show tonight. To Lil, to Rachel, Sarah, to Wyn and Sylvia. Very brave of you to come on. We've had a good response. Thank you to all of those who sent questions in. Of course, we would obviously like to send this out to invite people on to obviously have a debate. But that's it for now. Thanks for tuning in, and thank you to our guests for joining in and joining us this evening. As always, our work is always uploaded to our website, freedomcentral.info, so check out everything there. Until next week, guys, keep shining wherever you are.
Thank you, Mel. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
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 Is everybody still there?
Everybody's still there, but we're offline.
Okay, guys, we are offline. Thank you very much for a very good show. That was sensational.
Okay. That was great.
On my behalf, thank you for the bravery.
Yes, my husband's saying thank you for your bravery. You know, it's. I think this will make. I hope this will have the desired effect.
Mel, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, how do you feel about the whole situation now? What's your view on it?
Well, to be honest with you, I think there's too many holes in the story for it to be ignored, and I don't disbelieve anything you guys are saying whatsoever. I can genuinely feel the genuineness in it. I feel very, very sorry for Hollie if this is the case. I mean, it's not bad enough being born with a disability. You're having to live a lie that you've been sexually abused by people. I mean,
coach non-stop.
I mean, this poor child must have scrambled eggs for brains.
No, don't assume that, Mel. The problem comes down to the fact that Hollie would do anything to make her mother happy.
Oh, shame.
That's right. She just adores her mother.
Oh, bless her, man.
Anything she wants her to do.
Yeah.
But once you separate Hollie from Anne, then it becomes entirely different. I mean, one example is if you've ever seen the interview on Edge Media, and he asked her a question which was not the normal question she was asked. Normally she just goes, yeah, no. But he asked her if she was scared of her father when he said that he would kill her dogs. And Hollie said no. And Anne immediately jumps in and changes what she said.
Yeah, I saw that one. You know, that was actually sent to me, and I did check that all out. I did check it out. All right, guys, listen. I've got to just shut down everything here and finish off and getting the stuff uploaded. But it's been a great interview. I'm gonna hopefully, Sarah, do me a favor. Once these clips are up, send them off to everybody, and let's hope we can get an on-air debate going. You know, a fair forum where there is an audience listening, so these people can't get nasty and abusive. They know that they've got to be accountable for what they say and what they do. And
absolutely, we're all about being nice.
Yes,
yeah, absolutely. You guys have portrayed yourselves wonderfully.
Can I say one more thing?
Amnesty. We want to talk about.
We just want the truth to come out, you know, and people like Belinda and Brian Gerrish, they haven't actually been told the truth. They've only been told what Anne wanted them to know.
Do you not think
that you know, we've been on Facebook and we've had so many people, what about this, what about, and honestly I have lost count of the amount of times I've answered the same question nicely and politely, and I'm thinking
so we just gave up recently.
Yeah.
Just thought, you know, this is ridiculous.
I know how you feel.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Because what you've done is really, really good, and it's brave of you as well. And whatever happens from now on, thank you for doing that for us.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes, we do.
You know,
and because you actually took the time to listen to our version, that's why I decided that we would choose you to release this new information to.
Yeah. Well,
so
let me just.
Our exclusive there.
Thank you very much, and let me just say that I, at all points, have always just been about the truth, and I mean. As Sarah knows, I've had some shortcomings with the movement in general, and I genuinely believed it is co-opted. In fact, I think that perhaps people like Belinda McKenzie and Brian Gerrish are all CIA. I mean, this is just my hypothesis, working hypothesis. Are CIA plants, as is David Icke's controlled astrally, and this is all co-opted to have, you know, as part of a perversion, diversion. Co-opted, you know, but that might just be my conspiracy head going and working overtime. But I have felt that since we started talking, because there's just so many things pointing that way, and even with my own experience, like strange things that have happened to me, like not being allowed into Edinburgh after being sent written invitation, you know, things that have happened to me, being detained in the airport when I came back from Edinburgh, you know, weird things.
Well, I was almost going to bring that up, like that whole wake-up call in Edinburgh thing. It was just absolutely terrible, and I did feel for you at that time. And that it was very symptomatic of that group that were there, and that was AM, Belinda, and their cohorts. And yeah, it was a shocking thing that they did, and I told them that at the time.
Yeah.
But I didn't bring it up tonight. I thought, well, how can I tie it in? Maybe
No. Oh, I've done that to death. Listen, I've whinged about plenty on my show, don't you worry. It's got plenty of airing. God damn it, you know how poor we were at the time and how we skimmed and scraped so I can go up there. I was so fucked off, I'm sorry, my language.
Still.
Sorry?
Sandra Barr needs to be called to account for her part in the Hollie Greig campaign as well.
Oh, let me tell you, that woman, I have her ex-boyfriend telling me she's probably an extraterrestrial controlled Irish Republican Army trained, because she was in the army. Reptilian. She's an O negative blood type reptilian. Oh, she's a psychic healer. She's cured herself from cancer twice, but she smokes like 20 cigarettes a day. You know, I don't know how you cure yourself from cancer twice when you smoke that much. Plus, she's a Reiki healer and all this. It's all bullshit. You know what? Any arsehole can go get a Reiki. I know, because I did it. It doesn't mean you're a healer. You know.
Well, you know, it's like, you know, born again Christians or whatever. You know, all these people that preach love and light so much. They're usually the nastiest people you can come across. And really
I call them the Love and Light Brigade. Honestly, the sanctimonious hypocrites. You know, they do no benefit for the truth movement except for their own self-celebration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Belinda and Garish are two dangerous people, I would say. Very dangerous.
Both of whom ignore me. And do you know what? I've never had any confrontations with either of them. I mean, you know, put the pieces together.
Well, I guess it's like Robert Greene. They just don't like to be questioned, do they? I mean, or confronted with information that they're not aware of.
Yeah.
Well, as I said,
I know. Yeah, Mel, you're going to get some backlash from what we said tonight.
Oh,
like
I hope so. I hope so.
You don't have to believe anything that we said about this new information that we put forward, but there's one challenge. We don't have to mention the Hollie interviews or the interdict or some of the other stuff we didn't even get around to mentioning tonight, but Anne and Robert have consistently talked about the autopsy report and how they changed the story of what injuries her brother sustained. And the only way to prove who is lying and who is telling the truth is for you to challenge them to put the autopsy online, because they will not do it, because it will prove they've lied. And if they lied about that, what else have they lied about? Now, we know that Stuart Usher saw this report and he said it didn't say what Anne and Robert claim it did, and he left the campaign for family reasons, as they say in politics, shortly after that.
But as I said, you know, I've sent a challenge out to Garish now. You know, come on then, name these, because he keeps on, you know, she's been abused by top-ranking Scottish establishment. Well, who? You know, the judge wasn't even anything to do with it. Sylvia's husband wasn't a policeman, he was a civilian. So who are they then? So, you know, he is being allowed, he has been given a platform, or making his own platform, to tell lies.
And I even offered to go and visit him in prison and confront him. Anyway.
Well, his excuse was that his visitor card was booked up, wasn't it? So he can't give you the time of day after all the things he said about you.
So,
but the thing is,
can I just say, is the whole thing going on YouTube in its entirety, the 2 hours?
Yes.
Excellent.
I'm not going to edit it at all. It's going to be the simplest edit. I'm going to like take one clip, stick it on, not edit it at all.
You're not going to edit it at all?
No.
That's great.
No, it's 2 hours and you guys will see it's completely as is.
Brilliant. When may we expect it on YouTube?
Darling husband, when may these lovely ladies expect their clip? ladies, I must tell you, I've been waiting for my friggin' website for look, go to my website. I haven't updated the homepage since April because someone has really screwed up my site by spamming me. So we are extremely busy and I have to beg him nicely at every point to do something. So let me ask you nicely, dear husband, since you've been so inspired by this wonderful lady's story, could you do them a favour and get it up really soon?
Well, the audio clip will be on tonight.
Okay, audio clip will be up tonight, and I'll do the YouTube clip tomorrow morning.
As soon as you've made the YouTube clip.
Do you want some pictures of us all to go with it?
Sarah, send them to me, please.
I will do.
Yes, that'd be fantastic, and then I'll stick them onto the clips.
Little picture.
As a matter of fact, I'm uploading already.
Just Wyn, I want one of you in those really funky big round glasses. I love them. You look gorgeous.
I do hear.
Now, we care nothing but the truth tonight. Absolute truth.
and we can actually prove it, but whether they will call us liars, but one thing they won't do, like I said, is put up the autopsy report, because that will prove they've lied. And if that is a lie, then that shows that the other documents, and like I said, that we do know that one of them is genuine. We can't verify the other ones, but we can verify that the interview that Hollie did with the shops, there was an appropriate adult and the policewoman. We do know that is genuine, because that has been checked with the police, because we named the people that Hollie also named, and they said yes, that was true. So we know this one is genuine. So we've no reason to doubt that the others are not.
This is it, you see, Mel, is we go to the source as much as we can. We go to the source. We go like the CICA and the helpline for sexually transmitted diseases, and we do our best.
We actually check the information, and we don't ever put anything out unless we know it to be true.
Okay. Listen, ladies, I need the toilet, eh? I've been listening for 2 hours and I'm desperate. Thank you.
2 hours is a long time.
But listen, it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience tonight. I'll be honest with you.
Thank Sarah for that, because she covered for me while I went for a pee.
Oh, bless. Do you know what, Sarah? I must thank you. You've been my co-host on the show tonight, but Sarah's so organised. I tell you, I hardly had to do very much for the show. Everyone just sent me questions, and it was like, okay, this is obviously meant to be. I find that the things I struggle the least with are obviously meant to be, so it went well. Thank you all for your participation.
I'm probably going to have to get us back at some point, because of the amount of questions you're going to get now.
Oh, ladies, with my greatest pleasure, honestly.
Oh, thanks again, Mel.
Thank you very much, Mel. Have a good evening.
You too. You're most welcome. Take care, all of you.
Yes, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.